Today on the Natural Birth Talk, we are here with Mary Haseltine of Made for This Birth, and we are talking all about how to bring spirituality and Christianity, if that applies to you, into your pregnancy and your birth experience. Here's a sneak peek, so stick around. You know, there is obviously a spiritual side of it, whether you believe it's from God or something else.
Yeah, and I think, like we said, I think we know that intuitively when you've gone through the process, especially of like of an empowering natural birth. We know that intuitively that when you get to that point of transition, there is something deeper and very supernatural that happens there.
Yes. Hi, I'm Rachel Manns, owner of the Natural Birth site and this podcast, The Natural Birth Talk. Here, you'll learn all about different natural aspects of birth, pregnancy, and postpartum. Remember, none of this information should take the place of a care provider and is not medical advice. Birth is not a medical emergency. Thanks for listening. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Natural Birth Talk. Today, I am here with Mary Haseltine. She is from Made for This Birth, and we are going to talk about how you can incorporate spirituality into your birth. But before we get started with all of that, I want to let her introduce herself.
Hello, I'm very happy and excited to be here. Thank you for having me. My name is Mary Haseltine. I'm mom to 7 here on Earth, and we have a son or daughter in eternity.
Yeah.
I became a birth doula 11 years ago now, and I've been doing that since that, off and on. I had 3 or 4 of my own babies in that time, so I've been going off and on through that time. A few years ago in 2018, I released a book called Made for This, The Catholic Mom's Guide to Birth. And then this past year, I combined both the doula services and my online outreach and the book and all of my birth work under the title Made for This Birth. And earlier this year in the springtime, we also created and released an app that goes by that name to help women invite God into their pregnancies and births in a more intentional way. So I
absolutely love it. I love your Facebook and Instagram pages. Love the book. I'm just really thrilled that you are joining me. I know several other doulas in this area that love your book as well. So you are definitely making an impact for people. And so I want to jump right into talking about why it is so important to incorporate your spirituality, why it's so helpful as well, important and helpful to incorporate your spirituality into your pregnancy and your birth.
Sure. So I believe that we're created body and soul, right? So we're not just bodies giving birth. We are complete human persons. And that means body, mind, heart, and soul. And what affects one part of us is going to affect every single part of us. So when we give birth, it's not just affecting our bodies. Obviously, it's doing that, but it's also affecting our minds, our hearts, and even our souls. So all those things are meant to go together. So part of my passion and purpose in life is helping women understand how God wants to work in and through their souls, in and through their births, to glorify Him, to change their hearts, to transform them into mothers. I really think that birth is not just meant to be some vehicle for creating new humans, of bringing new humans into the world. As cool as that is, right? It's very cool, but it's also designed to be something transformational, spiritually, mentally, and emotionally. And I think we know that. We all know that kind of intuitively when any woman who's had that powerful birth experience knows that it's not just a physical experience. She feels completely changed and transformed. So my book and my work and all the resources we provide are designed to help women to tap into that, to invite God more intentionally into their births, to kind of experience what He wants for them for that birth. So each woman's birth is going to be super unique because each woman is unique. So the way that God works in her birth is going to be very unique. And the way He wants to speak to their hearts is going to be very unique.
Of course.
So that's why I think it's important, because it's designed to transform us. And if we just limit it to just bringing babies into the world, like I said, which is awesome, but it can be so much more. It's not just, like we always hear the line, a healthy mom, healthy baby. That's all that matters. When we know that's
like our
not
low
true.
bar, right? Like that is like the bottom of the barrel, our lowest bar we can set for ourselves, right?
And
there's so much more.
And what I think is kind of interesting about that line is they don't even mean healthy. They just mean alive, right? So it's
true.
So God wants so much more for us than just a healthy mom and a healthy baby. Like He wants to do something amazing through birth. Birth is like, when we think about the infinite number of ways that God could have brought humans into the world, that God could have like multiplied the human race. Like the process of birth is kind of weird.
It's so weird. I say it all the time. I'm like, birth is weird, but it's amazing.
Exactly. So he must have like done that intentionally for a reason. Like it could have been so much simpler. It could have been, like plant a seed and a human pops out. No, like he did this really weird process to within our bodies, within women to create humans. So why did he do that? So I love to explore that idea and help women just tap into that, like think about it more. What is happening here? And
the surrendering to your body and to his process and trusting in his process. And obviously this episode is geared towards women of faith, of Christian Catholic faith. But I mean, even for a listener who's not super religious or super into that, God spirituality side of things. I am not saying this eloquently at all, but you can still apply the same thought process in other ways. And so I only point that out because I don't want to scare away people from listening to this episode just because we keep saying God. Obviously, you and I believe that it is a God created process, and he is in charge, and it is all about him. But even someone who's not maybe there yet can still benefit from what we're saying. That spiritual side, that's, there's obviously a spiritual side of it, whether you believe it's from God or something else.
And I think, like we said, I think we know that intuitively when you've gone through the process, especially of like of an empowering natural birth, we know that intuitively that when you get to that point of transition, there is something deeper and very supernatural that happens there.
Yes.
So I think that's something that's written into us, into our souls, as women, that birth is something meant to be profoundly spiritually powerful.
Absolutely. Because it's just, like you said, you hit that point of transition and you're saying, I can't do this. This is crazy. Why did I pick this? But then your body and your soul are still doing it. And it's still happening, and something in you still, even though we have epidurals available and other things available, something is still motivating you to choose to keep trusting your body and letting the process happen.
What I find interesting, I think it's really neat. Even the women I've worked with that don't have any faith or would identify as atheist or agnostic, in those moments of transition, like I said, something breaks open in you. And even the most, the most avowed atheist starts literally saying, oh God, help me, oh God, or Jesus. And it's not always in the most reverent way.
Right.
But I feel like there's something there. We're calling out to something higher than us.
Yes.
Because we're at that moment of some people call it like decimation, or just that profound, like that surrender, that need to we feel at our lowest point, but that's when we're broken open and when new life springs forth. So I think there's just a lot of power there.
There is. And like you said too, birth is so transformational. And I definitely had something that I wanted to say on that point like 2 minutes ago, and I can't remember it at all now. But anyway, circling back around to, this is why incorporating your spirituality into birth is so important, because there is ingrained in us, innate in our bodies, through our innate God-given instincts, there is something in us that, how did you say it? You said that kind of breaks us open, and we just have like this surrender to our bodies and to the process. And that can and is a very scary moment for many women. Very scary, especially women who don't understand what's going on, which unfortunately is most of the women in our culture, right? Because we haven't been taught. But for the women who maybe haven't experienced it before, or maybe the woman that likes to be in control, and then they hit this point to where they can't be in control anymore, you hit that very scary moment. And the best thing you can do in that moment is surrender to it. Surrender to it. And trust God and trust his process, that your body knows how to do that, even if your mind does not.
Yep, exactly. The
And so,
strongest thing you can do in the moment is to surrender, which is it's just this wild paradox, right?
right. Yeah, because we don't look at surrendering as a powerful thing,
Mm-hmm.
but it is, especially when you're
Mm-hmm.
surrendering over to God and his process and just in the birth process in general. Okay, so I think we did a great job explaining, well, you did a great job explaining why spirituality in pregnancy and birth is so important. We mostly address birth, I guess, but in pregnancy too. I'll just give my quick little bit here. We found out I was pregnant with our third biological child, and we did not want any more biological children. We were foster parents at the time. We were trying to adopt, and that was where our hearts were really called. And so when I found out I was pregnant, I cried for 9 weeks. And I just remember I kept telling myself, I'm really upset about this, but children are a blessing. And I was able to, even though mentally I was so distraught over this because I did not want another biological child, I was able to also surrender a part of me over to God's plan and say, even though I feel distraught, I know that I won't feel this way for long. And I know that as soon as I go through the process and hold my baby, everything's going to, God's going to give me that strength to find joy in all of that. And so that's just kind of a little tidbit of why, having that spirituality within your pregnancy is so important too. One little example, right? Like, even if you're thrilled to be pregnant, there's still great ways that incorporating your spirituality into pregnancy is really helpful as well. But that was just my little example of where, like, God and my spirituality really helped me get through those first 9 shocking weeks.
Mm-hmm. I've been there. It sounds a lot like my 5th pregnancy.
Really?
That was the first time that we weren't like intentionally planning to be pregnant. And it was the first time, like, when I took the test and it was positive, I cried. And I want to say that with a lot of compassion, or a lot of recognizing that there are women out there who don't have that experience, and that can sound really harsh.
Right.
But when you aren't planning a pregnancy and you get that and you don't feel it already, it can be a shocking and very difficult thing to work through. But yeah, so I can definitely empathize with those feelings and that trust and that surrender. And it's a radical faith that, like, okay, this is going to be okay, even though nothing feels okay right now. And I have no idea how I'm going to do this. Leaning on my faith during that time was critical, because that pregnancy was filled with a lot of fear and a lot of temptation to just doubt and to just want to give up. And that baby ended up being such a joy, such a gift to our family. It was, oh my goodness, I could not imagine our lives without that baby. But yeah, I get it.
Yeah. So, again, circling back around, spirituality within pregnancy and birth is incredibly important. And we just listed all the reasons why, right? Or many of the reasons why. I'm sure there's more. But so with all of that being said, then what are some of, like, your top tips or recommendations for incorporating spirituality and God and your beliefs into your pregnancy and your birth?
So prayer during pregnancy, incorporating that into your labor and birth prep, but also just in your regular pregnancy care for yourself and for your relationship with God and your relationship with your baby. Just devoting time to pray and offer and be honest, like we were just saying before, like, just be very honest with God, what your feelings are and what's going through your mind and heart during this pregnancy, opening your heart to him. And, like, how do you want to work through me in this pregnancy? How am I supposed to grow through this pregnancy and through this birth? And how do I want this birth to go? Being brutally honest with, like, this is what I would really like, Lord. Like, this is how I want my birth to go. This is, I believe in inviting God into all the decisions of pregnancy and birth. Like, he wants to be a part of all of it. I believe he's our loving father. So a loving father wants to be talked to, right? He wants us to bring those things to him. The things that are weighing on our hearts are the things that he cares about. So whether it's like choosing a provider or choosing a place to birth or choosing what test to get or some concern that's popping up, bringing that all to him. And asking, like, placing it before him and asking him to bless our decisions and guide us to the right path for us is huge. That's part of how we can create what I call a holy birth, a sacred birth, is giving every decision unto the Lord and letting him bless those decisions. and asking him, like I said, asking him how he wants to work through this pregnancy and birth in our hearts. Are there things that he wants to heal through, like in our hearts? Are there wounds from our past that he wants to fix? Are there, virtues that he wants us to grow in through this pregnancy and birth? So listening, opening ourselves up. And in pregnancy, we're in a very vulnerable, open state of heart, mind, and soul. So it's the perfect time to grow in those things and practice prayer. Bringing scripture into pregnancy and into birth, to me, is so powerful. Just having those scriptures and those beautiful affirmations that we hear from God about pregnancy and birth, and that he is always with us during those times, having those spoken over us or spoken, reading them or claiming one scripture verse to be our birth verse. On the app, we have a huge track, it's an audio track of scriptures for pregnancy and birth.
Awesome.
They can be played all during pregnancy, but also played in the birth room, which is super powerful, just to have those words fill the room. Music is one way that a lot of women love to incorporate their faith into their birth. So, or pregnancy, just certain songs will just speak to you. Certain worship songs, certain praise or sacred music will speak to you. I'm a big music fan. So during my last few births, I had like whole playlists set to go, and it made the room, it just felt holy and sacred and joyful to have those songs that I had been training my mind with all through pregnancy. To have them playing during birth was really powerful. Yeah. For a lot of women, like bringing reminders of their faith into the birth room. So whether maybe it's a picture or candles, or a lot of my clients, they either hold during their surges, they'll hold a crucifix, or they'll have a crucifix on the wall that they're looking at to kind of focus them. So those things can be really powerful. Affirmations, prayers from your husband or your partner, or your doula, being prayed over you. I love praying with women as during labor. Just sometimes it's not it doesn't have to be super formulaic. It can just be like off the cuff prayer, or just something really short and sweet, just reminding us that we're not alone, that there's something greater at work here than just this moment and this sensation I'm feeling, right? And it's all for a purpose. A lot of my clients have, as Catholics, we believe we can offer up our pains and discomforts for other people. So they bring in a list of intentions. So during each of their contractions or their surges, either I or their husband, or they read like, okay, I'm going to offer this one up for, I don't know, my cousin who has cancer or something. And so during that wave that's heavy, they have something to kind of focus on and think about and offer that. And then like we said before, the surrendering aspect, just allowing ourselves, giving ourselves, our bodies, minds, heart, and souls over in that surrender to the Lord of just break me open, allow, like, I trust in you, and let this life be born from me, in that ultimate surrender of all of us. So so that's the biggest way, like at the end, where you're just like, that's all you have left.
Right. And
and then
you surrender it all, like your every last bit of energy, every last bit of mental capacity.
I remember very poignantly, and this seems to be something I've seen in women over and over, but I remember my own births very poignantly, moments where it was like all you could get out was either Jesus help me, or Jesus help, or just the name Jesus. Just those real short and sweet prayers where it was like, that's all you could say. And that's surrendering over. Yeah. So all those are all the ways that I see most commonly used and most fruitful for women, both in pregnancy and birth, of bringing our relationship with God into our births and bringing that spiritual aspect into birth.
Yeah. Well, and I love, you actually just like mentioned it, but it's my favorite, which is affirmations. And because I think they're all so helpful, and it definitely depends on the mom. Everyone's going to find different things that they find most beneficial. But those affirmations, yes, reading Bible verses and everything, it's so helpful. Having those prayers, especially like pre-formulated prayers or whatever, so helpful. Having a list of people to offer things up to, definitely helpful, especially if you're Catholic with that specific one. But the affirmations, I just personally love, because you can put your own relationship with Christ into those affirmations. If you're reading a Bible verse, yes, you obviously can be guided to a certain Bible verse, or, have this kind of like Bible verse theme, your pregnancy and your birth. But the affirmations specifically, I feel like you can get so individualized with those, and you can really bring in your personal relationship with Jesus into that affirmation. And I feel like just personally, that's very, very powerful. It's more connecting. I don't know. I just find that at least for my clients, is such a huge benefit. And with the prayers too, just kind of praying what you feel like praying in the moment. Like you said, it doesn't have to be a pre-formulated prayer. It doesn't have to be anything super fancy, but praying what you're feeling in that moment is kind of a way of surrender, in that you're telling God what you're feeling. You're surrendering those feelings over to him, and you're, asking him to help, because you're recognizing that you can't do it on your own. Anyway, so I just wanted to kind of throw that out there, because you gave so many wonderful tips, but the affirmations for me was the main one I was thinking of. And it was just funny to me that was the one you're like, affirmations. And then you kind of moved on, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. I love affirmations. I mean, I have a whole bunch of them on my site, and like I just get, I have like ones for sale on my site, but I just, when I was coming up with them, I just kept coming up with more and more and more. So I ended up with like 120 different affirmations.
Oh my goodness.
But my whole point is like, nobody's supposed to use all of those, but like one of them is going to click with you, or a few of them are going to be what click with you. And it could be something that's been speaking to you all through your pregnancy, of like, I don't know, like I recently was working with a mom. She had her baby a few weeks ago, and it was, for her, what spoke to her was, God is going to love me through this birth. Okay. So that's what we used during her birth. So like, that was what she wanted. That's what was like, God was speaking to her through the pregnancy. So that's what I was reminding her of during her birth. And for somebody else, it might be something completely different.
Right. Because there's no exact formula, right? Like there's no perfect formula for bringing your spirituality into your birth. The key is that you are bringing it into your pregnancy and your birth, but you get to individualize how that works for you. And you gave us a whole list of reasons and tips on how we can individualize that for ourselves. And it really is just, prayerful, like consistent, prayerful relationship with the Lord, and listening to what he is guiding you towards, and following your own heart in what is going to be best for you, what you resonate well with, what is appealing to you most. And it's going to be different for each pregnancy, probably. Yeah. So there's no right or wrong way to do it. It's, God just wants to see us offering that up to him always. He wants to see us surrendering to him and relying on him. Like you said, he is our father. And of course, a good father wants to be involved and wants to hear our hearts. And that's really important. Yeah. So is there anything else you want to tell us before we finish up?
I guess I just want to encourage anybody who's listening to remember that they are made for this.
Absolutely.
They are made for this pregnancy and this birth, whatever that means in their own unique situation. God is there with them. He has designed them to be the mother to this baby, and submitting all of our plans unto him is the way to be abundantly blessed in this pregnancy and in this birth. And he designed you well, sisters. He knows he knew what he was doing. So many of the lies of the world, or the lies that we tell ourselves, that he wants to break through that. And he wants to use this pregnancy and birth to do that, to heal those wounds, to speak truth into those lies. And he can do that through this pregnancy and this birth. And he can use this pregnancy and birth to heal things from the past. He can use it to sanctify you. He can use it to help you become the mother that you were designed to be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What good closing words. I love it. Thank you for being here, Mary. This has been such a joyous talk.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Listeners, I will put links for some of Mary's resources in the description below. So definitely check those out. And if you have any questions, you can always email me at contact@thenaturalbirthsite.com. Thank you for listening, and I will talk to you guys in the next episode. Hi, Rachel Manns again. If you want to learn more, please subscribe to and rate this podcast, and head over to thenaturalbirthsite.com to check out our online natural birth education course, birth story blog, YouTube channel, and more.